Right. Welcome everyone to another edition of CandidTalk Podcast. I have with me one of the regulars, Mondiu, myself, I'm Bane. And today we have a guest, Mark Amaza, with us. And Stanley is also joining us right now. Today we have a guest, as I said, Mark with us.
Hi.
Thank you. Mark is saying hi to you guys. Right. Yep. Thank you, Stanley, for joining us. Stanley is also a regular host on this podcast. So we're just happy to have Mark with us today. Mark is a co-founder of a business strategy consulting company in Nigeria called Mind. He's a co-founder of sorry, one moment. So he's a co-founder of a business consulting firm in Nigeria and also a senior communications officer for an advocacy group in Nigeria called Yaga. Mark has been in the advocacy space for over, at least that I know personally, for the last decade. And he's been specifically in the area of communicating in the political space, and also like I said, with his work with Mind Capital in the business strategy space as well. I'm sure he knows he does more than that, but that's just a snapshot of what Mark does. So today we're going to be speaking to him about his work with his startup, Mind Capital, and also the amazing work that he does with Yaga, and other surrounding questions, basically. So thank you so much, Mark, for being on this show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm going to just start with Mind Capital. So what led you to start? Because I know you've started Mind Capital for years now. What led to the formation of Mind Capital?
Okay, so I'm trying to think of one particular thing. So let me just I've always had a thing for conceptualizing ideas.
Right.
And always looking at whether they're not mostly business ideas, but mostly also things around when I think of innovation ideas, I don't just think in business, but it could be around public service, around public policy. I'm always asking why can't this be this way? Why can't this be that way? Why does it have to be this in a particular way or another? Yeah. And when I was in university, I had a business idea. I was really chasing, trying to raise money for what was supposed to be a music website, and it didn't pan out. But in the process of doing all of that, I was actually writing business plan and meeting potential investors. I was also learning a lot. And in the process, I think my peers in school kind of saw that, okay, that I had a lot of knowledge, and I've done business as a teenager. I did business with my mom, I did business with myself. I wasn't making a lot of money, but I was picking a lot of experience and knowledge. And so my peers in university started coming to me and bouncing their ideas off me, and get seeking my advice. And a close friend just said, well, we can turn this into a business. So that's basically how we started from. So I would call it Mind Capital based on the first capital you need is your mind, is your intellect. Whenever we talk capital, we think money, we think what physical or tangible resources you need to start a business. But the first thing you need is what intellectual capital are you bringing? So we started Mind Capital, and we started as making it a branding strategy and innovation consulting. Well, it didn't pan out the way we hoped for, because one, we're learning on the job. Yeah. Two, it's really difficult combining a business and schooling in a public university in Nigeria. Unlike universities in other places where the system is designed to encourage that bit of you and your School might even make allowance for you to excel. Here, you don't have that kind of liberty. So when you're trying to do a business and be in school, you have to even go to learn to even hide it from your lecturers. Because you have, unfortunately, and just since this is called candid talk, so let's speak candidly. You have lecturers that will tell you, oh, so you think you can run a business while you're in this school? Better go and I've heard students being told that in my presence, I'm like, okay, so you have to keep it under wraps. And, even the mere fact of juggling, because I schooled in Bauchi, and a lot of the folks we were pushed meeting or trying to get jobs from were not based in that town. It like involved a lot of travel. So, but in the process, we still learned a lot. There's a lot of learning we had. But then I think I'm overshooting your question. So let me just stop here.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. And so I'll ask, so it's two sections. So we're talking about Mind Capital now, and then we'll move on to Yaga. So I would say, what, how many, so apart from the challenges you just mentioned now, so when you finish from school, what challenges what barriers have you seen? And I'm asking this question because I see a lot that in the Nigerian business space, if, for example, you're not married, that's just one example. I hear this a lot from people, that if you're not married, automatically people don't take you seriously. That's just one. If you're a young man, you're running a business and you go and you present proposals, or you're trying to speak to people within the Nigerian ecosystem, Nigerian business environment, apart from the harsh environment that you have in Nigeria, you have cultural nuances like that. So what other issues, first of all, did you experience what I've just told you now? This is after university now. Did you experience this? And then what are the other issues that you guys experience at Mind Capital?
So I experienced some of those cultural nuances you mentioned. And because I was in school for a long time, and I was engineering student for 6-7 years, and I switched and started over fresh. So I spent over a dozen years to get my degree. It got to a point that if I told people I was in school, nobody believed me. So I just wasn't telling people I was in school. But for example, when I started this business, I was 22. And then I was go for meetings, I'll borrow my mom's car. And when I went with my mom's car and I went to Tahag without the car, there's always a difference in how I was treated. So that was one. And I also remember one time we were doing a project. This was under Mind Capital. This was an independent project I was doing, consulting project I was doing for a development agency in a northwestern state, somewhere in the north central. And the person was somebody I was going to meet, and I was talking on the phone. I kept calling me sir. And I told my friend, like, oh, this guy keep calling me sir. If he sees me, I'm sure his attitude towards me will change, because I was barely 26. And he sees me and he goes, yeah, are you the consultant? I say, yes. You look young. Like, no, sir, I'm not young. I don't look young. I am young. So it's not just look, I'm actually young. So those things here and there, or those that will meet you and tell you, or they are offering you a job and then trying to lowball, give you a really ridiculous price and tell you, I'm just trying to help you, like my son, you're like my younger brother. I'm like, no, you're going to be married. I'm just going to do some work for you. There's no relationship. So if you really want to help me, you pay me my market rates, what I'm asking, what I'm worth. So there's those nuances. When I finished school, so along the way, my partner and I, because I was like, I'm a co-founder, we took a break, sort of like a sabbatical. We had to figure out where our heads are, what we wanted to do, and all of that. So at that point, I went full-time into the development sector, and I worked with a non-profit, a global campaign, the Nigerian arm of a global campaign, working in the power sector, on the off-grid power sector specifically. And which is, again, one of the things is like you said earlier, a lot of things I do, and I've had a lot of interests and passions, and it's helped me by keeping me busy. And so I don't know how to be idle. So all those years in university, when us will go on strike for months, or the school will go on break for time with an end, those things kept me busy. So I didn't feel the impact as much. So even when sometimes the times I ask for color check, and I'll be like, no, not yet.
Exactly. I know exactly. I can relate to what you're saying. You know,
Exactly.
like it when also eventually called up the strike because you're doing other things and
Exactly. Or sometimes, and I hope my dad doesn't see this video, when school resume and I'll tell him, no, school is resuming in 2 weeks' time. And I don't mind paying the late registration fee because I have things doing. So, so one of my other interests is, like I said earlier, around policy. So so I started working with this the Nigerian arm of this campaign called Power for All, and I was in charge of their strategic communications. Even beyond strategic communications, I did a lot of policy work, a lot of stakeholder engagement, and it was really an exciting period for me. So to get in that whole policy space. But yes, so I think for another thing maybe I would say I encountered was in a way in seeing the differences in the business environment in say a place like Abuja and other places like Lagos, and looking at how those differences play out in actual Naira and Kobo terms, actual projects you can get. So for example, a image matters a lot more in Abuja than in Lagos.
Okay, I would have thought it was the other way around, where Lagos, because the whole show business, and that industry, literally everyone is trying to appear to be, but I don't know. Carry on. Sorry.
Perhaps it's just my own perception, because in Abuja, for example, you see a lot more of the, let me use the word fake it till you make it kind of behavior, where folks, because you're literally assessed on how you present yourself. So what kind of car you drive in, how you dress in, all of those kind of things. But another thing again, because of the kind of business how we were doing, we had companies that are based in Abuja are more willing to bring in someone from Lagos to do work than to engage someone from Abuja, perhaps on the assumption that, those in Lagos are doing a better job. So there's that. But yes, so there were those cultural nuances you mentioned, and on those what we focus on ridiculous level, and those business environment attitudes that you see relative from to where we were. Because one of the decisions for me I had to make was post graduating from university was where to stay. Move to Lagos, move to Abuja, where else? Stay in Nigeria, all those questions, and then look at putting into perspective the factors, different factors.
Wow, that's amazing. I'll let Stanley or Mondiu come in now to ask any questions.
Stanley, do you want to go first? Mark, I'm like kind of surprised about how yes. Mark,
yes, Stanley, you're saying?
I think we're still having issues.
Yeah, I was saying that I was kind of surprised that I'm kind of surprised that you said people in Abuja care about their image more than Lagos people. Like, I'm kind of surprised. I would think that Lagos people are just about how their appearance and all of that, both media image and all of that. Abuja tend to give this I don't care attitude, but yeah, I can totally seem to be seen in a particular way. Rather than how they truly are, especially with Abuja people. So yeah, the way people dress to a meeting also determine how they are treated. So I've lived that experience, So, fair assessment. I wouldn't have thought about it that way before now.
Yeah, and I think it's not just even dressing to meetings. It could even be things like, so you see, for example, you hear and see of people who invest in the kind of vehicles they drive. With the account balance is not reflecting it.
Yeah.
Because, perhaps also because a lot of the business in Abuja is, in a way, unknowingly or knowingly, is built around government. Yeah. Either in contracts or using government connects to get something. So perhaps there's that as a factor. So when you see the way someone be like, okay, this person is good for the job. If if you look hungry, and you're like, oh, this one, if you give me the contract, there'll be no execution. Also, they just know how to talk up a big game. The ones that always talk about how much money they have, who they know. But I think also because the fact that people in Lagos think Lagos is that way and not Abuja, and those of us in Abuja think Abuja is that way, not in Lagos. We might just be looking at a pan-Nigerian problem.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like there's that whole, your perception. The perception about you is more important than, like, we call it in Nigerian parlance, say packaging. Packaging.
Exactly.
Nigerian parlance say packaging is everything. And we all know and everything.
Yeah.
The substance itself is more. Do you have any questions to ask or any comments on this part before we move on to the next?
Yeah, so I was going to ask Mark about Yaga. So do you want to tell us, like, for whoever is listening, about your initiatives? I think you have a few landmark initiatives, like Not Too Young to Run. Am I correct?
Correct.
Watching the Vote, Power of 18.
Yeah.
Do you want to give like a high-level summary of these initiatives?
Okay, so Yaga Africa, that's a full name, was founded in 2007 by a group of students at University of Jos, and was started with me. Yes, exactly.
Wow.
I started election monitoring and trying to get more students and young people involved, politically active. And from there, that's now grown to this quite formidable civil society organization. In my opinion, I think for our generation is the most defining civil society organization of our generation. Beyond just, I've gone beyond where I work now, has gone beyond just working with young people, but working in electoral reforms, legislative engagement, those are then around governance and development issues. So we're the ones behind Not Young to Run. So I joined Yaga in January, but I've been involved with Yaga in an ad hoc or on project capacity since 2012. So with Not Young to Run, I am still a member of the strategy team of the movement. And it was quite a success in the sense that you had to do a constitutional amendment in this country is difficult. And it's designed to be difficult. And we built this youth-led movement across the country, state coordinators, their teams, to local government levels that engage these legislators, public at all those levels to get our amendment passed. And it was quite groundbreaking in many ways. And for me personally, I think it showed that via advocacy can get things to happen if you organize right and you push without giving up. Because Not Young to Run was the third attempt at amending the Constitution to reduce the age of eligibility in order to allow for more young people to be able to contest for offices. Besides, I also have the Watching the Votes, which is a movement of citizen-led election observation. Deployed it during the 2019 elections, deployed at the Edo and Ondo State elections last year. We deployed it in Anambra State elections in November. And even via it will also be deploying. We've also currently deployed citizen observers to observe the CVR, the continuous voter registration. I like that you mentioned the Power of 18, which is a very interesting project we are currently doing, where we are using it in Anambra State, where we are using young people between 18 and 25 who came up with ideas of how to inspire people of that age range as them to register, especially register for the first time. Because we look at the fact that every year we have at least 4 million people who become eligible to register as voters. How do we turn that number into actual voter registrations? And we think people of that same age group, where there's a lot of peer-to-peer influence that they can have, getting their age mates to go out and register to vote. So that's what we're doing in Power of 18. So we have 10 of those people, different local governments in Anambra State, and we'll give them a grant, small grants, and they're using that to really engage in. And we're already beginning to see results of increased voter registration in that age range.
So my next question is, how would you assess government's attitude towards what you guys are doing so far?
Well, for one, they keep us busy. I think the good thing is over time in many quarters, the especially like with whether it's in the at the executive or legislative level, there are many that we have worked with that have come to recognize or what we bring to the table in terms of enabling engagement between them and the public, in terms of able to be a feedback mechanism and say there'll be like a feedback mechanism on what the public thinks about what they're doing, in terms of working with them to improve reforms in processes or legislative reforms. There are many cases where they do the reaching out and say, we want to do this, I want to work with you guys to get this done. So there's that. At the same time, there are many times where we have to, and I'll be honest, say yes, we do meet some stumbling blocks, especially when it comes to really what's sensitive or weighty issues. So I'll give you an example is such as the engagement we did over the Electoral Act amendment, when there were rumors that electronic transmission of results was going to be removed. And we swung into action and began a lot of engagements, trying to engage the legislators, senators, House of Rep members, to get them to push that not just electronic transmission of results, but also other aspects of the bill, such as raising campaign finance limits, such as the one the clause where a returning officer cannot a returning officer declaring election results under duress does not make it invalid, because we see these things as being inimical to our democracy. Because if, for example, already we are battling the fact that there's too much influx of money in our elections. Our elections are almost become like as for sale. And to now increase the campaign finance limit is basically normalizing such a scenario. Because we're already dealing with this, we're already dealing with sort of vote buying. We don't need to now increase these limits and then basically make our elections to go for the highest bidder. For electronic transmission of results, we've seen how, because it was tested in parts of Ondo and Edo states during the governorship elections, and it's going to really, really improve the credibility and transparency of our elections. So it's on one hand, we have to say, let me use the word, earned our stripes in the kind of work we have done, and not just as the IGA, but there's also many other civil society organizations that work in this space, and we're able to now get listening ear. But also we also know that sometimes we also have to deal with the fact that many actions are driven by vested interests. So like I said, they keep us very busy.
That's amazing. I mean, I would have thought, like, I'm amazed. One thing that you just said now that jumped at me is the fact that they actually reach out to you as well. They actually reach out to you, on some issues to work with you guys. I'm really impressed with that because, from as an outsider looking in, especially when you guys are young, the attitude of a lot of our political class is to infantilize a lot of us young people. You say they're like our children. You people are like my children. No. We are citizens asking for you to do your job. So I'm really surprised that they actually see you guys as equal stakeholders enough for them to reach out to you and actually actually even ask for you to work together with them. My question will be, what do you think? My next question is, what do you think is the because there are two, as somebody who, as a young person, I'm not young anymore, but as
you're still young. You're just 52.
Please stop saying my age on national TV. Anyway, but I'm just saying, like, for young Nigerians who are disaffected with Nigerians or with Nigeria as it is and are angry and don't even want to engage with the government, what do you think is, because the thing is, for me, it's not just about engaging the government. I think it's more about, it's very important for you to be able to demonstrate that you actually have millions of the Nigerians, or the young Nigerians behind you, and you're actually speaking for them, right? the reason why that is important is that even if it's in Afghanistan, there's no one that doesn't there's no political power that doesn't respect large following. So my question is that what has been the challenge of, or is there, do you guys actually try to reach out to this demographic of people between the ages of, I know you said you've done a bit of that work in Anambra, but is that something that is part of your overall strategy to reach out to the younger generation so that to get them onto to what you're doing? Because what you guys are doing is not the fiery approach of just being angry. Of course, anger is not a strategy. You're actually engaging and saying, look, listen, and when you start to engage, there'll be give and take. And a lot of people in Nigeria, whenever they hear that word give and take, or anytime they hear anything like what I put it now, there's a word I'm looking for. When you negotiate basically with the government, with
compromise.
Sorry?
Compromise.
That's the word. I don't know where that
compromise.
I don't know why that word ran away from me. But anytime people hear the word compromise, especially in the Nigerian context, what just springs up to their mind is, oh, you people have been corrupted, you people have been bribed, and all of that. So my long rambling is, I'm trying to, do you guys try to engage, apart from just educating Nigerians on voters' rights and stuff like that, do you try to engage with Nigerians on the need to A, engage in the political process, B, to, in a nice way, lower expectations not lower expectations, but temper our idealism to what we can achieve, what can be achieved, and what we can engage government on, and stuff like that. Do you guys do any stuff like that? Like when you're reaching out to people to say, look, it is better for us to get half of what we're looking for than to ask for 100 or nothing, and say if we don't get 100%, we don't want anything. So that's my long-winded question.
All right. So we do engage with young people on being politically active, and we engage with people as young as in secondary schools. So we have what we call democracy summer camps, where we engage young secondary school students, and just from the rudimentary knowledge about of what it means to be in a democracy and how to be politically active, from there, and then building all the way up. And we beyond just that, we also try to raise, we also not just try, we're actually succeeding in raising new generations of community organizers and activists through our youth organizing school, which we have done 8 times. So for 8 years, we couldn't do one last year because of the pandemic. So we're doing 2 this year. And we have even gone beyond Nigeria to have people from other African countries be part of it. And many of these guys end up they come through the program and they have passion, because like you said, anger is not a strategy. Passion too is not a strategy. We don't tell people to lower their expectations. But the most important thing is knowing how to organize. So this is what you want to achieve. How do you organize around it? How do you make it happen? How do you deepen your knowledge of that sector? It could be anything. It could be, and I'm sure even before I joined Young Africa, I'm sure for my social media, I always talk about how whatever it is you're passionate about, it could just be one thing. It could just be like, I want to end open defecation in my community. How do I go about it? How do I deepen my knowledge in it? How do I know the people to meet? How do I engage them? That's kind of learning how to organize. So it's sort of like an incubator for community activists called Youth Organizing School. So I've been doing that since 2013, and we're now in 2021. I'll keep going strong. So, and the beautiful thing is that we have seen organizations that have come through our Youth Organizing School grow to become big enough organizations by themselves as well. Even under Divided Not Too Young, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. So you're saying that other organizations have come through and have gone on to, wow.
Yes, they have grown. Yeah, so even through our youth, through the Not Young to Run movement, because we don't talk Not Young to Run movement, our state coordinators, they're not Yaga staff. They were individuals, they were organizers at their community level, because we needed the local knowledge they had and the network they had brought to bear in how they did advocacy for the bill at their state level. So even that alone, that was a huge way of also improving their advocacy skills, their communication skills, and all the soft skills they need to be better activists and advocates.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, that's so wow. So so at this point that you are now, what do you think is, again, it's tied to the question I just asked you. So in terms of engaging the political class on one side and educating the young people, right? So which one do you think? I'm not trying to put in terms of priority, but I just want to get a sense of where do you think that Yaga would get more results in terms of what will make Yaga more relevant to our future as a political union? Like, do you think that continuous engagement with obviously you have to keep on doing that. My question is, if you were to prioritize, which one would you go for? Would you go more for educating the young people than engaging the political class? Which one would you?
Wow, this is a pretty difficult question because we've never looked at this as an either or.
Right.
We've always seen both concurrently, and we've been doing that both concurrently. We've been doing both concurrently. So it's always been, we need to engage the political class, we need to engage people in government, we need to engage whether it's in the legislature, whether it's at the executive level, whether they're electoral management bodies, we need to engage them. We also need to engage young people, especially young people, because we also know that the work, to use the biblical phrase, the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. We also need more people that will join this work, that are able to carry this forth in many ways, in the ways they can, in as granular as they can, in the communities they come from. Right. So it's never one or the other, It's, for us, it's the fact that both need to work hand in hand. So because, for example, if we focus only on engaging people in authority, there's a lot of work to be done, and that work is beyond just one organization. Right. So we now risk carrying on too much. Okay. On the other hand, and the thing is, by empowering people to do the work we are doing and to follow in our footsteps and go beyond, we are tapping into the creativity they have that we might not even see. They might even approach the problem in a different way. We'll pick a problem that not even have seen it as being a problem and find a solution. And at the same time, if we engage only in building up people that will engage the system, we also risk the fact that there are times that things need urgent solutions, and we lose on those opportunities to engage those who can make the solutions happen. So they have to go in tandem.
Right. Okay. So I just have I'll have a quick rapid fire question. So, Sandy, do you have a question? Stanley, okay. Stanley, we seem to.
Yes, I have a question for Mark.
Okay. Just before you ask the question, I was just going to ask. Okay. I'm just going to quickly ask that. So, and this might be slightly tricky. What, in terms of funding, how do you get your funding? Is that something that you're comfortable to talk about, or in the organization? Yeah. How is it funded?
Yeah, so we're funded by grants, from donors, predominantly by grants from donors, and we have a lot of partners who are funding our work, ranging from organizations such as the DFID, Action Aid, NED, National Endowment for Democracy, Oxfam. We have a number of donors, and they specific to certain projects. So how donor space works, it's you based on your project that you're doing, we get funded by donors for it. We're a non-profit and a non-governmental organization.
Yeah, that's very important, because whoever pays the piper, they say, dictates the tune, isn't it? So it's very important that that it's clear that your sources of funding are not any way related to government, because obviously you know how it is with in the environment that we operate is very unforgiving. Once there's that tint, that's it. You can never come back from it. All right, that's absolutely amazing. But Stanley, you can go now.
Quick question. My question is around voter registration and voter education. Of course, INEC recently started the online pre-registration to lessen the burden of people trying to get voter register and all of that, get voter card and be able to register during the election. The numbers has sort of been varying. Initially, the first week when INEC released data, it seemed like it was impressive. There were over 1 million people who registered online and all of that. But it seemed like it has peaked, and that is it. Like it seemed like the numbers did not sort of, the correspondence in terms of number of registrations seemed like it was like huge. When you look at the first week of registration versus the second week of registration, there's a huge gap in terms of the number of people who freshly registered online to the INEC offices to complete their registration seemed to be very low. It was, I think, in the first week, it was less than 100,000 or so, right? And I was just thinking about how much of public enlightenment, the amount of investment that goes into public enlightenment in the months leading up to election, right? And it seemed like, and this is from where I sit, and you have it from where I sit, it seemed like it seemed like the investment that is made into voter registration, get out to vote campaign seemed to come a little too late for the amount that we invest into it. It's done at last minute. It seems like it's an all-fire brigade. Oh, we have only registration, and you're trying to get 80 million people to both confirm their registration, to either do registration or relocate their voter registration. All of this happening within 2-3 months, while we have all of this luxury of time now, and it seems like everywhere is quiet. So I just don't understand. I guess my question is, what's the reasoning behind that whole last minute push to get everybody to do this when we have sufficient time now to do this engagement? Why are we not seeing the level of media engagement, media output that we see in the months leading up to election, now that people can comfortably do it at their own leisure? I guess that's my question, if you get what I mean.
Yes, so I get what you mean. Unfortunately, I can't speak for INEC. So I can't, I know there's some publicity going on, and there's always room for more. And I also know that organizations like ours, like Young Africa, have been doing a lot of engaging people, doing by using social media, doing ads on radio and on TV to encourage people to go and register to vote. But like, I agree with you, there's a huge gap in awareness. So for example, a lot of people do not even know yet, still do not know that you can actually pre-register online. And almost every time I tell people that, they'll go like, oh, they didn't know that. So I think there's a lot of room for improvement in terms of how do we increase this awareness and get people to go out there and pre-register online, because the process is so much easier than it was before. You pre-register online, you get your printout, you go to a place, you won't, it's not like 2014 or 2018 where you're going to spend almost a whole day or days upon days to get registered. There's some places you get as quick as 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour at most. So there's a lot of room to get people to be aware that this process is on. It is easier, you can pre-register online. And also, importantly, is that, that after you pre-register online, to make out time to go to the centers and then complete the physical component of the registration. It's also an opportunity for many organizations, and I encourage people, individuals, groups, associations, organizations, to do what they can in getting, let me use the word, get out the votes. So for example, because there's now on the INEC registration portal, there's an option where you can choose if you're registering for someone else. So imagine you and your friends come together and then set up an online registration point in your neighborhood, and then have people come by and just pre-register, and then get a printout or send a printout to their emails. and they go forward and go and get this done. Because unfortunately, computer internet literacy is still a challenge. So, for example, Yaga Africa has done that in where our office is located. We've got certain points in the neighborhood, and we've set up a point, and we've had a lot of people come by and we've registered them. And in so doing, we're increasing the chance of they going to go and get registered. Might not even be fresh registration, might be to transfer their PVC. It could be to correct certain details in their PVC, or to apply for a lost PVC. So, so those are things that, you can do it, religious bodies in your church, in your mosque, wherever you worship, you can go to your market around. There are many ways we can all pitch in to get this done, to make this increase in number of people that go out to register. But yes, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in increasing awareness to let people know that this process is on and it's simpler than before.
Fantastic. We could sit down here all night and talk about your work with Yaga. And I'll like you to promise that if we invite you to come back again, you'll come back, because we haven't completed this. We haven't even started to scratch this conversation yet. I'm serious, because there's so many questions in my head, but we unfortunately are a bit tight for time today to this evening. I don't want to keep you too long on a Sunday evening as well. Yeah. So I would honestly like to ask that you come back again, because there's a lot, like I said, there are a lot of questions in my head, but if we start talking about them, you won't end tonight. But there are questions. There are two questions now we normally ask before we round up the podcast, and we ask every guest. So one is in no particular order, you can answer them. One is, what is the kindest thing that someone has ever done for you? And then the second one is, your president today, President Mark Amaza, you become president of Nigeria today. What is the one central policy plank that's gonna be your administration's focus, in any order?
Okay, let me start with the present one, because that's one I can answer anytime if I wake up from sleep. Not like I'm planning to be president tomorrow, but I think for me, I think one would be if I'm president of Nigeria today, what would be the central plank of what I want, what of my administration will be, not to use as a buzzword. I would not say restructuring, but it could mean anything. I'll say importantly to devolve a lot of power from the center to the states. And my reason is simply because the way our country is structured currently allows for a lot of inefficiency, for a lot of dead weight, and not just at the state level, but also at the federal government, federal level. And the states are not incentivized enough to do what they need to get done. So I think it's also the reason why we have this almost do or die affair to get into the power center. So for me, that decentralization and devolution of powers is going to be central to what I will do. Kindest thing anyone has ever done for me. Wow, this is a tough one. Because again, not for lack, but for an abundance of kindness I've received from people. Yeah. So I'm thinking so hard to pick which one can I say really stands out. And with memory, I will now remember the things that have come closest. Man, there's so many. So I'll just give a risk. Okay, I'll say when I was getting married in January, I had a lot of people I've never met. I didn't even interact with so much. They were so excited and told me they've been praying for me. And those that sent me financial contributions to my wedding. And it was all unexpected because I didn't know them that well, but they were so excited and so, so encouraging, so generous. I was overwhelmed by a lot of the kindness, and it kind of made me realize, like, for everything I do, there are people who are out there watching, and I must have made an impact on them or impression, and kind of keeps me like everything I do in perspective. So for that, it's not one thing. I think just that period had a lot of that, and it has never left me. I don't think it ever will.
Wow. I know I can imagine how that, especially when kindness from people you don't know or you don't know on a personal level is usually like, you don't even know how to, you don't know how to out where to put it, because it's not, they're not looking for anything, they're not asking for anything, they're just doing it because, you know, of what they see, what they admire in you, and you know, so you begin to think like, what, you know, what they see in me, you know, and things like that. But yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Mark, for
thank you very much
coming on the show. And please, when we say come again, please don't say no. Like I said,
I'll try not to. Let me not bind myself into commitment, but I'll always make time for you guys.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. But again, you know, we're speaking today to Mark, and I'm sure you guys have gotten a little bit of education on how Nigeria works and what he's doing at Yaga, and with his you know, his private enterprise as well, what his experience has been, you know, cultural nuances in Nigeria, doing business in Nigeria, with Mind Capital, which I'm sure a lot of us can relate to. Thank you so much for coming to us. Thank you so much, Stan. Thank you so much, Mondiu, for hosting as usual. Thank you so much, guys. And that'll be bye-bye for me, and bye-bye for the rest of the crew.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you, Mark.